Okay, hello. This is my take on the Smash community, technicals, and, mental health in general. So I watched the full 2 hour video that Technicals put out on Hack's tragedy. And it's, really unfortunate that somebody or a group of people had the power to essentially send somebody to an early grave. And in turn, somebody tried to step up and help and point out the tragedy and how awful it was for something like this to happen. And yet there are still people that continue to perpetuate the bullying that essentially caused a suicide to happen. And I can't believe when with all everything going on that they continue to push and push, and Technicals how somehow has become the brunt of these attacks, which could maybe for the best, because Technicals seems to be he's always been strong-willed, as somebody who knows him personally, and was directly involved in his situation that has turned him into who he is today. So, and I actually commend him for continuing and pushing and becoming what he is now, which is a controversial figure, which he's always been. But I think his intentions have been good to try and separate social issues, politics, degeneracy, all those things out of the video game scene from a video game that is essentially supposed to be for family-friendly, users. Smash Brothers is a game that's supposed to be for all ages. Even if it's in a tournament, the story of Hacks is actually a great example of a young person who was underage when they started, perhaps, and was able to make a career out of a game that people, didn't give it two seconds for in the past. And man was able to make a career out of it, and due to politics and whatever social issues that they want to involve into the Smash community had caused this man to seek an end to all the suffering, all because they just didn't want him around. Now, there may have been some controversy back when it all began. He may have said some things that were unpleasant, but guess what? Free speech is what it is. It's the responsibility of both parties involved to be civil and have discourse. And the leaders of those communities, the TOs and organizers, need to step up and play mediation and make sure that, people don't fight each other over nonsensical issues that arose from competition. Obviously, fighting games are competitive in nature, and energies will be high and heated, and people will say things they may not mean in the heat of the moment. And it definitely can become a group or a mob mentality. I may have even been guilty in causing some of the issues and or harm originally that Technicals had to deal with. I think he came out on the positive side of it all, and I'm glad to see him being, an advocate for mental health, because it's two sides of both the coins, right? You've got the people like Hacks he was trying to defend, and then the people on the other side who are in denial of their mental instability. So too many times when I was directly involved in the Smash community, you see people just hanging around who don't even play the game. And some of these people are guilty of it. They may play the game casually, but they don't compete and they're not serious competitors. And yet because they group up and mob together, they had the power to ruin somebody's life. And, circling back to Technical's origin story, this man, got pushed around by the community he was in, for sure. And I may have been a culprit of that at the time. He, in his young nature, clapped back, rightfully so, at sometimes antagonizing. It annoyed me at times. Don't get me wrong, but speech is just that, speech. I wasn't the TO. I just came in and did some commentary. Perhaps I should have stepped up. Maybe I was even part of the instigating of both sides. Maybe I was a mediator. I don't know. I haven't looked back. It's been so long. I'm sure Technicals could blow me up if he wanted to. But I'm glad he chose the fuel to try and help a community clean itself up from all the sexualization and grooming that it's gone through, the violence that's been evoked multiple times, and the bullying that continues. It needs to somehow come under control. And if it continues, as he said, the Smash Bros. As an entirety will die. A new game won't save it. The community will band together, ruin it, and try to keep it for themselves because nobody, wants to participate. So that's really my 2 cents, is that what happened to Technicals, he was able to keep himself strong and get through. May not have been as extreme, but I think I can see the root of how all of this has transpired over the years and has built up into this negative community that nobody wants to be a part of. And the only way that you're often welcomed in is if you're on the side of the cool kids, whoever they may be that's running the show. And that's not fair to any players who just want to come and play the game. Like, if they say something online, that's like walking outside my house and yelling XYZ. You can't do anything about it. It's my right to say whatever I want in this country. So if you don't like it, that's too bad. But guess what? Freedom of speech is real, and you can say whatever you want. There's a lot going on right now, and these discussions need to happen. And we need to stop resorting to violence and aggression and find a way to stay balanced, especially within video games and competition. It is also interesting. Why is it the fighting games that seem to have the majority of the issues when it comes to this? Is it the individualism that comes into fighting games? Because when you look at team games, I'm sure there's some controversies. I've never gone that deep, but it seems that the fighting games themselves have some of the worst issues when it comes to things like grooming, sexuality, sexualization of things and characters from the video games, to aggressiveness and physical altercations. The physical altercations I understand because, again, it's fighting games and something's going to happen. But beyond that, it really shouldn't happen. All this other peripheral things shouldn't happen. And I think the Smash community specifically has been most affected because the corporate, monster of Nintendo's never truly been involved in their games, and it's been left to the community, and the community only cares about itself, not the game. They say they care about the game, but it's about the individuals within it. And if they can correct this path, perhaps these games will continue to grow and see new and more players. But at this point, they're going to be stuck with what they have, and growth is stagnant for now. So, shout out Technicals. As much as I used to sigh at some of his actions. The man is doing, God's work, so to speak, and I can do nothing but support him, because the amount of ugliness that's coming from the opposite side is honestly just is crazy to hear. The constant KYS, 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 KYS. Like, grow up. That is such a childish thing to say to somebody. And don't you understand what you've done by saying all of this? And yet there's a large part of the community that continues, especially after something like this. It's just crazy. Anyways.